Right. How's it going, everybody? Jesse Montano out here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. You're 18 floors up. I'm looking down at Portage Avenue. Am I saying that right? Portage Avenue. Avs Jets coming up here in 2 hours at 4 p.m. here locally in Winnipeg. 6 o'clock puck drop, and we were out getting lunch here. Geez, what was that, about an hour ago, 90 minutes ago? And it's starting to fill up with people right around the arena. The white jerseys, the white hair, the white face paint, it's all out. So looking forward to this one tonight. Honestly, it was a long regular season. It was a grind of a regular season at times. But I am amped up for these playoffs. We were out last night with Evan Rowell, Corey Massasak from Colorado Hockey Now, the Denver Post, Kyle Fredrickson, Denver Gazette, and we were watching the games, and we're at the different bars, and man, I am just so jacked up for playoff hockey. And look, it's a little bit of a bummer that the Avs fumbled away home ice there right at the end. But I am looking forward to it. You hear stories about the Winnipeg whiteout and the passionate fans here, the small building, it gets really loud. I'm very much looking forward to it. So let's get into it here. Look, there's been all kinds of different articles written previewing the series. We've done a podcast on it. Other shows have done podcasts on it. So I'm not going to go through, and regurgitate everything that you've heard over the last week. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we saw here today. At the rink this morning, talking to the guys, talked to Josh Manson, talked to Devon Taves, Jared Bednar. It was an optional skate for both teams. Both teams took an optional practice this morning. And really that is kind of what you see this time of year. Usually it's fewer practices, fewer morning skates, a lot more stuff that is optional. Because the games are such a grind, right? And they can go late, double, triple overtime. So you just really don't see them putting any additional stress on the body that you don't need to. But so both teams go optional. So that means a couple things. For us as media, we don't get access to every player. It's only the players that skate. So we didn't necessarily see Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. I saw Mikko Rantanen this morning. Mikko Rantanen is a great guy to be around because he's always keeping things light. He's always got a great attitude, but he was dialed in and focused this morning. And that's what I would say the vibe was for the Avs. There was a quiet focus and a real emphasis on, we know what has to be done. And, I was watching the Denver Nuggets game last night. Guerilla Sports is all over, Nuggets now as well. So I was keeping track of that as, we were coming down towards the end of the game. And there was a theme that was being talked about on the broadcast. There was something that Nikola Jokic said after the game, talking about identity and knowing who they are. And when things get tough, you get behind in a game, whatever it is, you fall back onto that identity. You say, we know who we are. We're not going to get rattled because we're so confident. We're self-assured. It's easy when we are just a year and a half removed, 2 years almost, fully removed from the 2022 Stanley Cup. It's easy to continue to point back to that. But when I think about that team, that was a group that was very sure of who they were. And that was why it felt like there was such confidence from that team every game, every period. If they were winning, if they were losing, up by 5, down by 5, there was just a confidence about we know what we need to do. And that's something that we're going to find out tonight. We're going to find out a lot about this version of the Colorado Avalanche tonight, not over the course of the series. I mean, sure. Yeah, of course, over the course of the series, a 7-game series, the point is to win. Josh Manson was asked this morning, what does a successful series look like for the Avalanche? And he said to win. So obviously, but tonight in particular, look, you stumbled the whole way down the stretch, and it was different stumbling than 2 years ago. There was, lapses in details, a really struggling, special teams on both sides. Massive question marks with the goaltending have really been, those question marks have been solidified over the last couple of weeks. And so it's not just like, oh man, they're not playing well. They're up by so much in the division. They're not really playing meaningful games. That's what it was 2 years ago. This year has felt like actual, real problems. And so that's why I'm saying tonight we are going to get our first very real look at what this version of the Avalanche is made of. You have established leaders in the room. You have 13 guys that have won Stanley Cups, if you're counting Gabe Landeskog, who is here on the trip. We saw him this morning. You have 13 guys in there that have rings on their finger, most of them being from the team a couple of years ago. That's a lot of experience. And then you feel really good about guys like Zach Parise, who have been in big games before, who are I was going to say part of your bottom six, but we got a question here saying, are they really going to go with Zach Parise on the top line? That's where he's been skating. We're going to see. You guys know Jared Bednar likes to blend things up. The way that line rushes go in warmups aren't the way that lines end by the end of the first period, and then they go back and forth. So we'll see. But, point being, you feel really confident in the quality of character that you have in that room and the amount of experience you have in that room. And that's maybe what's been so confusing about, why they've struggled to flip the switch and why they've struggled to respond. But this is it. They've talked about it. They said all the right things this morning. It's a different, new season. Turn the page. And I do believe that is true. 3-0 for the Jets in the season series means nothing at this point. The Winnipeg Jets won those games because they're a good team. That's what matters, that they're a good team, not that they beat the Avs, 3 times in the regular season. Jared Bednar contested this morning like, hey, look, yeah, we got beat by them 3 times, but 2 of those games were 2 of our internal worst games that we've pointed out and said, this is where we did nothing right. And so he's saying, hey, look, not taking anything away from Winnipeg, but we think we have a lot to give. I agree with him. I think the Avs have a lot to give. We got to see if, look, and I hate to say this because it feels like, like you're saying that these players aren't trying, aren't showing, but I want to see if the Avs show up tonight. The game against Winnipeg a week ago was the first game where it felt like, okay, this is really ramped up. This is going to be the first time we see the Avs really crank it to that next level. We saw them play a really good game against Edmonton a couple weeks before that, but this was like, all right, this game last week in Denver against Winnipeg, it meant something, and they just fell flat. I mentioned on the show a couple of days ago that it feels like they've lost confidence in Georgiev because that was another bad game. They were looking for a response out of him. Didn't really give it. They get to wipe all that clean. You get to start back at 0 and see what you're made of. Now, again, when you're running through this lineup, even if Zach Parise is at the top, even if he is skating with Nathan MacKinnon or Arturi Lehkonen or however they choose to, if they keep Mikko Rantanen in there, this is why you added the way that you did at the deadline, so that you can have some depth. It sucks that you lost Jonathan Drouin in game 82 in a non-contact injury where he just kind of went down. You lose him for the whole series. But you're not, Zach Parise is a replacement, but you still feel good about what you have for 4 lines. And you're hoping that you can get out of this series and get a guy like Jonathan Drouin back. On the back end, on paper, I still believe this is one of, if not the best D-core top to bottom. Jack Johnson has struggled at times this year, on the fancy stats, but I think he's been solid overall. If he can continue to hold down that third pairing like we've seen him do in past playoffs, they're going to be in good shape. Him and Sean Walker. I really like the makeup of this Avs team. And again, we talked about it the other day. I like what they did at the deadline. I still believe in all that stuff. It's got to come to fruition. And the one name I haven't mentioned here that we maybe need to see, a bigger step forward than anyone else is going to be Casey Mittelstadt. He is the number one that I am curious to see what he does tonight. This is his first ever NHL playoff game, and he's going to get thrown into a hostile environment. It's going to be loud. It's going to be energized. Nathan MacKinnon said something at practice yesterday that really struck me. When he was asked about Jonathan Drouin, he said, I don't know if I can do any more, I'm going to do it. Casey Mittelstadt's going to see Nathan MacKinnon crank it up to an even higher level. For everything that Nathan MacKinnon has done in the regular season, he has shown consistently throughout his hockey career, going back to major junior, when the lights get turned on, he dials it up. So Casey Mittelstadt's going to be right in the middle of all that. The environment here, the crowd, what Nathan MacKinnon, is going to do mentally tonight and taking it to another level. Cale Makar taking it to another level. Can Casey Mittelstadt ramp it up as well? For as big as Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon were in that playoff run, that cup run 2 years ago, having the 1-2 punch to have Nazem Kadri come behind and still be a real offensive threat. I think Casey Mittelstadt is so skilled. I think he can play that role, but he hasn't filled that role the way that Nazem Kadri did. We're going to get a real good look at if he's got that capability. I'm not saying he's got to go out and score 3 goals tonight. I don't need to see that from Casey Mittelstadt tonight, but I want to see him handle the playoff atmosphere like he's been there before, even though I know he hasn't, because that's what it's going to take. He got thrown into a team that is trying to do it, that is going for it. And he's got to be able to get his game to that level, even though he's never done it. We saw Jack Eichel do it last year with the Vegas Golden Knights. A little bit of a different, age and caliber, but you get the point, right? So that's going to be another thing that I'm keeping an eye on tonight is going to be, what does Casey Mittelstadt do? You're going to need the Avs to play that bottom 6 to be playing heavy and stuff like that. But that's, again, pretty standard. You're going to need to lean on your depth, especially with the Jonathan Drouin thing. That's standard for the playoffs. My number one thing that I'm watching tonight to see what's different is Casey Mittelstadt. Can he take it up a level? Second thing I'm watching tonight, and obviously these are in no particular order, it's the goaltending. I firmly believe, I've been saying this for a couple weeks, it's Alexander Georgiev game 1, game 2. I think there's been a big shake in confidence in Alexander Georgiev's ability in the last couple of weeks within the Avs organization. I don't think they're ready to take him out necessarily, or they're on the verge of anything like that. But for the first time, no one has come right out and said anything, but I have heard a shake in confidence. Jared Bednar, it really wasn't that bad, but he makes a comment yesterday of both goalies are ready to go. I think there's maybe a little bit of coming to terms with we might need both these guys. I think they've been waiting. They believe in Alexander Georgiev. That's why they went out and acquired him. That's why they came out right away and said he's our number one once they did acquire him. And I think they've been waiting for him to flip the switch and to get on the up and get on the right trajectory, get on the right track. And he just hasn't. And I think they've finally been like, okay, we gave him every opportunity. He hasn't done it. There's a chance we're going to have to go to our other guy. But I do believe it's Alexander Georgiev, game 1, game 2. They're going to give him a chance to earn his net, right? It's his net to lose, but he does have to earn it here. And I'm going to see what kind of game he can turn in for the Avs. That's really what it comes down to. I absolutely believe that not only can the Avs ramp it up to match the Winnipeg Jets, I think they can absolutely be better than Winnipeg Jets, in terms of guys on the ice, where the Winnipeg Jets clearly have the huge advantages in net. Connor Hellebuyck, for my money, is the second best goaltender in the world behind Andrei Vasilevsky. And maybe this season, given the way they've played, it's a pretty easy argument to make that Hellebuyck is the better goalie right now. So that's what they're up against. That to me is what it all comes down to. I'm really anxious to see, a guy like Ross Colton, who, seems just built for this. Miles Wood just built for this time of year. Nathan McKinnon, can he ramp it up the way that he has? Val Nichushkin, is he healthy enough to make an impact? All of that, all of those things are very real factors, both tonight in this game and in this series. But doesn't mean anything if the Avs can't get a save. Jared Bednar, I thought, said it best a couple nights ago in Vegas. You got to come up with a save for the guys sometimes. There's going to be breakdowns. There's going to be mistakes. I'm not saying the Avs have been perfect. JJ and I on Guerilla Hockey 2 days ago broke down exactly where their problems are coming from in their own end, why they're leaking so many chances. Guys not in the right places, making poor decisions with the puck on their stick. All that stuff is true. And especially when the space is tighter, you're playing heavier along the wall, like is going to happen here in the playoffs. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be small breakdowns. I'm not saying Georgiev has to be perfect. I'm not saying he has to bail him out every time, but you got to bail your team out every now and then. And that's what I'm going to be looking for out of Alexander Georgiev tonight. If he's the only way I see them going to USAN, it is if Alexander Georgiev costs them one of these first 2 games and they lose both. You know what I mean? Like if they have one game where, gosh, maybe they lose by 1 and you had they lose by 2 and a couple of the goals you didn't like, but he was fine otherwise. And then the other game, he just falls apart. I think they would go away from him and go to Eustis. I've been told Alexander Georgiev has a little bit of that Nathan McKinnon kind of fire in him and can really kind of ramp things up. I want to see him do it. He knows the pressure's on. He in the past, we've seen him kind of thrive in those types of situations. I want to see how he responds. Tonight, game one is all about how the Avs respond for me. I think that's kind of what it boils down to. Talking about Casey Mittelstadt, the goaltending. To me, it's all about response. I told the other guys over here this morning, I think whoever wins tonight wins. I think the winner of tonight's game takes the series. And obviously, it's one game. That's why you play 7 games, because it's never just based. But I think if the Avs can come out after going 0-3 against the Jets in the regular season and put on a strong performance and kind of punch back, like they've gotten punched in the mouth by the Winnipeg Jets all season. If the Avs can hit back and respond, I think we've got kind of a different feel to this series. But if the Jets come out again tonight and Georgiev can't make a save, and oh my gosh, are you having to pull him? And the Avs look just kind of shaken, and they're not focused at, after the whistles and with their details. Well, then the confidence of the Jets is just going to, build and swell and swell. And now suddenly you've beat them 4 times in a row pretty handily, this, that, and the other. So I think tonight's a huge game. And I think it is. It's all about the response. The response from Georgiev, the response from guys in the middle of the Avs lineup. Ross Colton, it feels like, has dialed it up the last few games. Miles Wood, but that line needs to get the magic back a little bit. Now with a guy like Brandon Duhaime likely skating there a lot. Casey Mittelstadt needs to step it up. Val Nichushkin needs to find that goal-scoring touch again. And we're going to have to see how the top 6 responds to losing a guy like Drouin, who's been so important all season long. So I think all of this has the makings of a really, really fun game and a fun series. The Jets have all the momentum coming into this. The Jets are feeling good. The Avs have to take, Josh Manson again mentioned, we're embracing an underdog mentality. And then Jared Bednar, kind of put some realism to it and said, we are the underdogs. We're the lower seed here. We're on the road. We're not just embracing the mentality. We are the underdogs. We have to go out and play like that. So the Avs have a chance to do something, really special tonight. And if they can come out and push back the way that I just talked about, that will tell you this is a for real Stanley Cup team. This is a team that can go, all the way. But if they come out tonight and kind of fold, man, not only is it obviously going to put into question, do they have what it takes to go all the way? But it's going to really make you question if they can even get out of this first round. So I think this is game one, round one, game one. It's a must win for the Avs, or at least a must play very, very, very well. If you make the Jets earn every inch and they beat you 1-0, then, it is what it is. But maybe if that's the case, maybe I feel a little bit different. All right, going to take a couple just quick comments here. I apologize. You guys will probably see me. I keep checking off to the side here. It's where I got my monitor. We're in the hotel, folks. We got a setup going here that you wouldn't believe to make this happen. So I got my monitor over here. Let's go Avs. Trennan, Wood, Colton need goals from these types. Just like Rempe got things started for the Rangers today, 100%. Jared Bednar talks about that all the time. You need your depth this time of year. It's great to have a guy like Nathan MacKinnon. He's going to be the best player on the ice anytime he's out there, but he can't score 5 goals every night. You need your depth more now, more than ever. Let Georgie settle in, clear the pucks, good zone exits, allow him to see it. I agree with his 100%. This is the thing. If everyone's going to talk about, and I do believe this recently, that Georgiev isn't making the big saves that he needs to. He's not making the bail him out saves. The Avs got to play in a way that says, okay, we're not going to put you in those situations. Because then if the easy shots are going in, they're clearing rebounds out, their details are sharp, they're not losing guys in front of the net and backdoor and all that, then it makes it easier for you to point to and say, we have a goaltending issue here. There is a pretty clear correlation between Georgiev underperforming in a game and the Avs struggling in their own defensive end, defensive details, things like that. So I agree with that 100%. Maybe Georgie had some fatigue from the many months. They leaned on him. I really don't buy that. He's a guy that likes to play a lot. Likes to be involved, likes to get into a rhythm. So I don't really see that one. I actually think it's kind of the opposite. He struggles when he doesn't play that much. Like McKinnon said, we need one of two. Completely agree. You have to come out of here with at least a split. Do you think, who do you think is going from bottom to top 6? Again, I think it's going to be a bit of a blender here. I think you're going to see Zach Parise there. You might get Yakov Trenin. You might get a little bit of Ross Colton. I don't know. I think Jared Bednar is going to try a few things, especially depending on how the game is going. Think Sean Walker will be an X factor with the offense, with his offense in the series. For me, I keep saying this, and I don't know why. I don't think Zach Parise is going to have a huge stat line. Zach Parise is my guy that I'm expecting to make a couple just like random, crazy big plays in this series, and then if they get out of this series beyond. But I don't know why. I think Sean Walker's a good pick, but Zach Parise for some reason is my guy that like, man, if he can just have a couple, big moments where he's in front of the net, that's going to be really big for this Avalanche group. Gonna need to limit their slot chances and convert on ours. We talked about it on the game the other night. You got to tighten down those defensive zone details. What someone talked about a minute ago, better decision making when the puck's on your stick. And then in the offensive zone, you got to get to the front of the net. You have to really, really, really simplify. Hellebuck's a big goaltender. He's athletic. He's technically sound. You got to get in front. You got to get in his eyes, and you got to find some rebounds. And then you also offensively, you got to get better. And this goes with the zone exits that we talked about a minute ago. You got to get that transition game back. Utilize your speed. The Jets want to slow it down when you can. You got to transition quickly, get up the ice, and attack. That's how the Avs are going to be successful in this series. Those two things we just talked about there. We got to shoot the puck when we can and not overpass. I think some of that comes with the frustration of things aren't going our way and there's a little bit of overpassing going on. Overall, I agree. Last one here. 3 regular season games, 17-4. Is that 4, right? Yeah, I think. 17-4 goals for the Jets. Even special teams, Jets crushed. Look, everything on paper says the Jets, are the team that can handle the Avs. It's been like that for a long time. Or excuse me, the Avs can't handle. It's been like that for a long time, just identity-wise. The Jets play the exact opposite way the Avs like to play, and it's always given the Avs fits. So we'll see. This may end up just being a really bad matchup for the Avs, but their hallmark 2 seasons ago was that they could adapt and play whatever way you wanted to play. So like I said, at the end of the day, this all comes back to, for me, we're going to find out what the Avs are made of here tonight. And it's going to tell us whether it is going to be Jets in 5 or if the Avs have it in them to change the way they want to play and force the Jets to have to adapt to their play style. So should be a fun one. We're going to wrap this up. Head on over to the arena. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will have a post-game show right after the game with Evan Rowell from Colorado Hockey Now. So make sure you are tuning into that live here from Winnipeg. That should do it. Thanks, guys, so much. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys from the arena and then back here after the game. Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy it.